The following program may contain subject matter and language suitable for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody. I'm Norm.
And I'm Jeff.
And this is
The Meltdown.
That's right. And today we are talking about guns.
Guns.
Yeah. Now, I think this episode is probably mostly about gun culture in America, because in Canada we really don't have a gun culture. Mm-hmm. Although, that said, we have had how many shootings now in Ottawa this year, which is only a few months old, like 20 some odd shootings?
Yeah, it does exist in Canada, sadly.
Yeah, so. And it exists in every country, but I think it's safe to say only in America is it an epidemic, seriously. Guns are serious. There's been obviously, I don't think whenever this episode airs, it's going to be either just after or just before another mass shooting in the States. I mean, that's the sad thing. It's like,
every time I hear about a mass shooting, of course it's terrible to hear.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's bad news, but I don't get shocked anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
no,
I think
we're numb to that now.
We're almost numb to it.
Yeah.
I think the last time I felt like just like shocked was the Columbine shooting, which was obviously terrible. And now I hear about it and I'm like, oh, that's awful. But I don't have that sort of nervous feeling. You know what I mean? I mean, it's bad news. But it's almost like we're used to it, and that's sad.
We're getting used to it because it's happening all the time. We have some, and because it's the Meltdown, we have to be fair. So, we're going to be looking at pro and anti, but we do have some gun fun facts.
Okay.
All right, so just a point of interest. When I was researching these facts, I went to a website called AmericaGunFacts.com. And I was literally on the page for a second and a half when this pop-up appeared.
Whoa.
Yeah. Would you like a free gun?
Free gun.
Isn't that something?
There you go. Free guns everywhere in America.
So, I mean, if that doesn't right there give you the idea of the culture, I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know, in Canada when you buy a car, if they're going to have any kind of a special on it, it'd be like you get a bonus, we'll throw in a heated seat package or something else, or a sunroof.
Scented pine cone.
We're going to talk about some pro facts. So AmericaGunFacts.com is a pro gun website, and there are many, many, many of them out there. And what they, of course, try to do is debunk the whole "we need gun control" issue, and they're basically saying that guns aren't dangerous, people are dangerous, and whatever. So here we go with some pro facts. So the approximate number of civilian firearms in America is 270 million. 270 million people. With guns walking around.
Wow.
Right.
That's a lot.
Another fact from that website, the times a year women use a gun to defend against sexual abuse is 200,000. So what they're saying is, hey, can you imagine if these 200,000 women didn't have guns?
Yeah.
Why? Fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
3 out of 5 polled felons say they won't mess with an armed victim.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it does protect you, that's good. I'm still not a gun person, but that's an interesting point, though.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Okay, here's another one. A recent study published in the Harvard Journal of Law and Public Policy concluded that there is a negative correlation between gun ownership and violent crime in countries internationally. In other words, more guns equals less crime. And of course, every time there's a mass shooting in the States, and CNN's all over it, and You'll always have someone from the NRA saying, hey, if more people had guns, less people would have died. And this is what we're hearing all the time. To me, personally, that makes zero sense.
You're right. It's illogical.
But it's the culture. And in that culture, they believe it 100%.
Yeah.
Here's another pro fact. In 1982, Kennesaw, Georgia, passed a law requiring head of households to keep at least one firearm in the house.
Yeah.
Passed a law that required that. The residential burglary rate subsequently dropped 89% in Kennesaw compared to just 10.4% drop in Georgia as a whole. Today, the violent crime rate in Kennesaw is still 85% lower than Georgia's on the national average. Okay, I'm going to jump into the mind of the American gun owner in Kennesaw. Okay? And I imagine, here's what I imagine. Now, that it talks about a concealed carry law. So, in other words, you're not going to see people walking around like this, But I guess if I was going somewhere and I was contemplating doing something to someone and I saw all these people walking around with their guns, I probably would think twice about doing anything. Okay, I mean, I'll give you that. I probably would think twice about it. The problem is that a lot of these people who have these weapons don't know how to use them. And we'll discover that in just a moment. But first, we're going to get to the anti-gun facts, okay? So this is from a website called Vex, and so this is what they have to say, okay? Right. Number one, America has a unique gun violence problem. The U.S. is unique in two key and related ways when it comes to guns. It has way more gun deaths than other developed nations, and it has far higher levels of gun ownership than any other country in the world. The U.S. has nearly 6 times the gun homicide rate of Canada, more than 7 times that of Sweden, and nearly 16 times that of Germany, according to the United Nations data compiled by The Guardian. And these gun deaths are a big reason America has a much higher overall homicide rate, which includes non-gun deaths, than other developed nations. 6 times as many. I mean, well, that's it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Second anti-gun fact: the problem is guns, not mental illness, which is very contrary to what we've been hearing lately. But supporters of gun rights look at America's high level of gun violence and argue that guns are not the problem. They point to other issues, from violence in video games and movies to the supposed breakdown of the traditional family. People with mental illnesses are more likely to be victims, not perpetrators, of violence. And Michael Stone, a psychiatrist at Columbia University who maintains a database of mass shooters, wrote in a 2015 analysis that only 52 out of the 235 killers in the database, or about 22%, had mental illness. The mentally ill should not bear the burden of being regarded as the chief perpetrators of mass murder, he concluded, and other research has backed this up. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this comes down to each individual case and the reasons or the motives, but that's very interesting. And yeah, I really think it's easy to generalize whether you're pro-gun or anti-gun, and I think you really have to break it down and say this individual and this is what his issue is, or whatever the case may be, and sure, if it's mental illness or whatever. It's certainly, this is a difficult topic in which to comment on in a more general sense, because
it's true. Yeah. It's true, and it's also difficult because if most of the time, the perpetrators of these crimes turn the guns on themselves, and they're gone before anyone can really know what was going on in their head. I mean, yes, they can trace back, computer data. They can trace back what friends have said, other conversations, and try to build a motive. Yeah. But you'll never truly, really know when that person has taken their own life, because you can't. You'll never find out. Yeah. All right, number 3, state and local actions are not enough. A common counterpoint to the evidence on gun control: if it works so well, why does Chicago have so much gun violence, despite having some of the strictest gun policies in the U.S.? Good question. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders made this argument after the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting. She says, "I think if you look to Chicago, where you had over 4,000 victims of gun-related crimes last year, They have the strictest gun laws in the country. That certainly hasn't helped there. End quote. It's true that Chicago has fairly strict gun laws, although not the strictest. And it's true that the city has fairly high levels of gun violence, although it's not the worst in the U.S. This doesn't, however, expose the failure of gun control altogether, but rather the limits of leaving gun policies to a patchwork of local and state laws. The basic problem, if a city or state passes strict gun control measures, people can simply cross a border to buy guns in a jurisdiction with laxer laws. Right?
Crossing the state line
Yep.
or the county line.
Can't get them here, I get them over there. It's easy for us as Canadians because we can look at this, objectively, because we're not in this situation. And really, if you just took a few minutes to think about it, if you had no guns, none, if nobody had them, okay, except law enforcement, let's say, how many mass shootings would you have? Okay, so now we move on to the lighter side of the program, and here are some stupid things that people have done with firearms. So here are some stories, true stories, about what some people have done with firearms.
Right.
All right, number one, off-duty police officer Daryl Jouett of Erlanger, Kentucky, accidentally shot himself in an elevator in Cincinnati, Ohio in January 2015. Surveillance video shows that Jouett was talking to a woman, later identified as his wife, in the elevator while holding a box. He briefly pulls a gun out of his pocket and glances at it. While fumbling to holster the weapon, it accidentally fires near his abdomen.
Wow, that's not good.
No, but you know.
Yeah.
Number two. Gregory Dale Lanier, 35, of Frostproof, Florida, was driving his pickup when his dog kicked a 9mm that was on the floor, causing it to discharge. Lanier soon realized the gun was loaded when he heard a boom, saw smoke, and felt a burning in his leg. The police have determined that the shooting was accidental.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Although maybe the dog was trying to tell him something, you know? You shouldn't be carrying this thing. Why am I here with this friggin' 9mm on the ground?
Dogs and guns just don't go together.
No, they don't. No. Dogs don't kill people. Paws or legs that kick
Dogs
guns.
don't kill people with guns. People kill people with guns, not dogs.
That's right.
Dogs have better sense than that.
Okay, here's number three. Connorsville, Indiana Police Chief David Counselor has accidentally shot himself not just once, but twice. In 1999, he shot himself in the hand while cleaning his service weapon. In 2014, Counselor suffered another self-inflicted wound, which occurred when his sweatshirt jammed against his .40 caliber Glock's trigger as he attempted to holster the weapon. He was examining a new Glock at a gun shop at the time. And remember, he was a police chief. Not that that means anything. It can happen to anyone, and that's a good point. You know, I'm sure he was fairly skilled with weapons, and it happened to him twice. Here's another one, and this takes us to baseball, and we're both baseball fans. Go Jays, go! Yeah. Man, they're just kicking it.
They are.
Former MLB slugger Jose Canseco shot his middle finger off while cleaning his gun. In October 2014, Canseco's former Flame, Layla Knight, reported he was sitting at a table in their home cleaning the gun when it went off, and no, it seems he did not check to see if it was loaded.
Jose.
Yeah, Jose, come on, man.
Man, what's wrong with you?
I don't know. And you know it was because of Jose Canseco.
Yeah.
It was back in the back-to-back years when the Blue Jays won the World Series, and they were playing the Oakland A's in this one game. Canseco was up at bat, and all of a sudden, he's looking around like this, and suddenly the cameras start shaking, and it was that huge earthquake that hit right there during the game that brought the Bay Bridge down. And I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
It was remarkable. But because of that, for some reason, I started watching Oakland A's as well as Blue Jays.
No?
Okay, here's another one. 21-year-old Donella Knowles robbed a gas station at gunpoint. Well, he tried to rob a gas station at gunpoint, but what he did instead was shoot himself in the leg. Knowles' attempted robbery occurred at a Stockton, California gas station in January 2015. Armed with the shotgun, he made his way inside the business and ordered everyone inside to get on the ground. He took money and even tried to have victims open a safe. Police suspect he then pulled out the shotgun and shot himself in the leg in the process of demanding money from a cash register. And a follow-up that I did not print here was that he basically went across the street to a friend's place, because he'd shot himself and he was picked up by police. They kind of pieced it all together. Another one, a Fresno, California teen mistakenly shot himself while trying to scare his ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend. The unidentified teenager allegedly took out a .22 caliber rifle after he noticed his ex-girlfriend's car parked nearby and fired about 6 rounds into the air before the gun jammed, police stated. As he tried to clear the rifle, he accidentally shot himself in the leg. And lastly, in January 2014, Richard Cole, 36, was driving toward Orlando, Florida when he mistakenly shot himself in the leg. Another driver allegedly flashed a weapon after the two had some type of altercation. To protect himself, Coles brandished his own handgun, causing it to discharge into his leg. Oh. So there you go. And all I'm going to say is these are people, all of them, that were probably encouraged to, as well as were allowed to carry firearms. Oh. Now, I don't know. Is that a small percentage? If you go on and do the research, Jeff, you'll find thousands upon thousands of these stories where these people just don't know how to handle a weapon. The only way I can see that makes sense to end this episode is with a gunfight. So, Jeff, it's you or me, buddy. All right. Only one of us is coming back for the next episode. Yeah.